There once was a man from Terror, and some of his sons made a terrible error. They started a war, much worse than before. Now he sits on a gold throne forever.
Or does he?
My blood is red, your skin is blue. Heresy is worth it for a girl like you. Roll the music.
Okay. So is this like the belated or phenomenally early Valentine's edition of the Fluffen Hammer?
No, I just decided to go for...
limericks and poetry today.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be limericks.
I know, any poetry
Mary
at
had
all.
a little lamb. Its skull was white and red. It didn't matter where it went, because Kharn took its head. Welcome to the Fluffen Hammer.
Fair enough, which he definitely would. You know?
Well, yeah, of course he would.
I don't think Kharn is particularly choosy when it comes to what heads he takes. I'm just surprised he hasn't done the old berserker thing of cutting off his own.
Yeah, I'm glad he hasn't, because it would be...
No, because he's cool. The thing is, I don't think Kharn would allow him to at
I think he'd probably allow him to cut his own head off. He just wouldn't allow him to die from it.
He wouldn't allow him to die. That's the point, isn't it? He is basically immortal at this point, isn't he? I mean, Korn's already breathed life into him twice now.
Yes, true.
Brought him back from the dead. The Chaos Gods are like that, though. I mean, look at Lucius the Eternal. Literally cannot die. Every time he is slain, if his attacker, if his killer takes an instant of any kind of pride in that accomplishment, then they become Lucius the Eternal. Mm-hmm. Their bodies slowly warp and transform. It's even happened with Necrons.
Has it?
It has, yeah. If you read the current Chaos Space Marine Codex, it talks about how he was slain by I think it was some sort of Necron overlord or something, and there were still engrams of pride in its programming. So, of course, it slowly found its mechanisms being clogged with flesh. And eventually Lucius erupted from its frame. So he is very difficult to kill.
That's fairly ace, to be honest with you.
It's fairly cool, isn't it? I think the only thing that could potentially kill him is something that can't feel pride. So like a robot or a Tyranid, maybe.
Yeah.
Because Tyranids don't feel emotions like that.
No, all emotions kind of stripped out of them. They feel what the hive mind feels, and that's it.
So maybe something like the Tyranids could kill him. Maybe. It's hard to say. I mean, even then I imagine Slaanesh would reach down their throats and pull him back out, you know? Because Slaanesh really likes Lucius.
Yes, there's nothing quite like a zealot to keep everyone happy.
Well, the thing about Lucius is he's not even devout.
No.
That's the funny thing.
You don't have to be devout
he's
to be
not
a zealot.
even... And certainly not to be like a zealot of Slaanesh. You just don't. I mean... The thing about Lucius is that he's the ultimate narcissist. Yes. He only cares about proving his own superiority and the art that he practices, which is the art of swordsmanship. That's all he cares about. He doesn't give a shit about Slaanesh worship or about faith. Or in the books, he doesn't even really have much of a concept of what Slaanesh is. He's not that concerned, you know, but Slaanesh obviously doesn't care.
Well, no,
He's a fitting servant.
What I was meaning earlier on is, when it comes to both 40k and AOS, it doesn't really matter if you believe in the gods or you are actively trying to appease them. You can become an accidental zealot of a chaos power.
You can, very easily. Very easily. I mean, you feed them regardless. Yes. It doesn't matter. You don't have to actively worship them. If you actively worship them, it feeds them more. Yeah. That's all. That's why they want champions and, you know, the faithful and whatnot. But you don't have to. Every thought and emotion that a mortal creature in the 40k universe has feeds them. So there's not much you can do, really.
In the grim darkness of the far-flung future, there is only crap.
Yep, there really is. So ultimately, you may as well just, you know, give in and worship one of them. Why not?
Speaking of worship, I'm Adam, this is George, and this is the Fluffen Hammer.
Hello!
Neil, bend that knee. Bend that knee like you were trying to get a child into some trousers.
pay tribute. Absolutely.
Pay tribute. There are two things I really want to do this episode, George. One is I'm going to throw in random limericks and poetry throughout the entire episode.
Okay.
So
I'm up for that. That's fair
With that
enough.
in mind, roses are red, violets are blue. Exterminus, no more heresy from you. We also want to talk a little about some books.
Oh,
Because I've read quite a lot this last month.
have you been reading? What have you read? What have you got? Black Library stuff, presumably.
Yeah. Well, Black Library, some China Maville, and some Michael Marshall Smith. I've had
good.
a good month of reading, mostly because I haven't slept very well this last month. So I really wanted to talk about some of the 40k and AOS books I've been going through.
Interesting.
So I don't think last time we recorded, because it has been a little while.
It's been a while, yes. I've been on a slight hiatus, ladies and gentlemen.
There's been
I've been working my backside off.
You're not alone there. The word I'd use is future-proofing, is what I've been doing this last month.
Yeah, that's a good term. That's a good term.
Anyhow, let's not get into misery. Let's get into joy.
No, let's not.
First of all, I read Belarius Calls The Great Work.
Oh, is it good?
Yes
I really
and
want
no.
to read it because it's Belisarius, and I love him. I love him to bits.
He is amazing.
Isn't he great? The way he's portrayed in the background, like he's not like an Imperial character at all.
He's hilarious.
Is he? He's funny. He's funny, and he's got this kind of bizarre humanity to him.
He is the order version of Fabius Bile.
Considering that this is the guy who's the head of the Mechanicum, the entire cult whose ethos is transcending humanity and emotion to become more purely machine-like. He just isn't that.
Well, the cool thing about him is he picks his personalities. He has a collection of them, and he just decides which one to wear that day. And he keeps going back to the same one, and I can't remember how they put it, but it's something like reprehensible with a little bit of mischievousness or something like that. It's really, really strange.
I love it. That's a brilliant concept for a character in any kind of science fiction setting where they have they can select personality. There's a whole realm of speculation to explore there concerning identity and whatnot. Oh God, it's so deep.
He, oh my word, as a character, he's amazing. He's so the book itself, it does some really interesting things. I don't think it's the best written book I've ever read.
Right. Who's the author of that one?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Can't remember that one.
Because I don't have it with me. 1 second.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It is Guy Haley.
Oh, Guy Haley! I actually quite like a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
He's one of the newer ones, I believe, and he's okay. They tend to be books of two halves.
No, this actually does a really good job of having from beginning to end. The only issue I've really got with it is the amount of times that someone said something.
That is actually a bugbear with the Black Library in general.
Yeah.
There's the only ones who sidestep it are the really the big ones, the ones like ADB and John French and whatnot. They actually get over that. But what I find is you often get reams of he said, she said, he said, she said. I mean, I'm an author myself, ladies and gents, and one of the things you just learn not to do eventually is keep saying he said, she said, he said, she said, because you don't need to do it unless there's some confusion over who's talking. You don't do it. You just put the dialogue. Yeah. That's it. That's all you need to do.
I mean, Pratchett used to do it all the time, where he would say that somebody said something, somebody else would reply, and then from that point forward, for the next 3 pages, it would just be each line of dialogue.
Yeah, it softens the dialogue.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
When you keep having he said, she said, he said, she said, it softens it. It actually softens its impact. And it in terms of rhythm, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
It becomes like a metronome.
Yes,
doesn't
actually,
it?
yeah. Which I wonder if that's the point. Anyway,
you know?
But a lot of what happens in that... What that book does is... One, it takes the old Deathwing from old 40k and transplants it over the Emperor's scythes.
Okay,
which is interesting.
So the story of
Cloud Runner's not in the book,
Yeah, Cloud Runner and whatnot.
So
okay. So the whole sort of Native American kind of thing is transplanted.
It's the Gene Stealers infecting a viable Space Marine gene stock. Part of it.
Okay.
So that gets done. But it goes a little bit further than that, and it does some very cool things. I was a little bit thrown when I realised, hang on, I know what this is.
Yeah, I know this story. I've read it before.
What's it doing in the background of another book? That's really odd.
Yeah.
But, okay, fair news. I'm not going to complain too much about that, as the Deathwing Cloud Runner story has been kind of taken out of the history now. So that's fine.
Of course, yeah. Isn't it like barely alluded to in some of the Dark Angels background as a myth or as something that was falsified or something
like
like that?
They tell other Space Marines, other chapters, to cover their own truth.
Oh, that's very Dark Angels.
And I don't like it, to be honest. That annoys me somewhat, but that's because I'm an old man and I don't like change. But the other thing it does is it makes Cole to be probably now my single favourite 40k character. They've taken... It was Bile. Fabius Bile was my favourite character for
Bile's
such a long time.
After reading the books,
Cole... So what you have is a character who was tortured by Cole for years and years and years in order to perfect the Primaris idea, right? And he turns up, and every time this character comes across Cole, Decimus is called, every time he comes across Cole, he hates him. He absolutely hates him, right? So he walks into this room, he sees Cole, and he's just like, you. And then Cole looks up, and the wording is so good. Cole looked up and waved with 3 of his hands merrily.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that all the way through, like...
That's because that is what he's like, isn't it? I mean, even when other writers have written Belisarius Cole, he's been like that.
Yes, he's always had this real cheek to him.
There is a charm to him. I mean, he turns up in one of the latter Horus Heresy books, because he is from that era.
Yeah.
Very
part
young.
Of this book actually takes place during the Horus Heresy.
Oh,
and it
right.
shows,
so it actually goes right back.
It's Cole when he was still mostly human. And how he gets to be who he is now.
Well, he was very lucky not to have been executed, wasn't he, or arrested? Because he was basically a heretic, wasn't he, to the Omniscia. He used to do all sorts of naughty stuff, like hacking into areas that he didn't have any warrant being in,
It shows that he was learning under a guy who turned. So
interesting.
This is where it gets really interesting for Cole. So he himself has never made that decision to go against the Omnissiah, to go against Terra, to go against Earth, to go against Mars. He, however, was led astray by the guy by his teacher, his commander, his mentor, his lord. So that's where it goes a bit weird, and a lot of Cole is arrogance, just absolute arrogance, as he's, yes, I did that, but no, I have never once betrayed the Omnissiah. I've just learnt. It's that kind of mentality that I really like. Cole... Yeah,
he's outside of the systems a little bit, isn't he? He's like... and it's led him to do some very interesting things, countenance some very interesting things that no one else in the Imperium ever would.
And a lot of the book pushes to show that Cole, being outside of the normal rings of command, and the flashbacks all try to pull him back in, get him as front and center as it physically can. and Cole's pushing against the narrative in any way that he can find. He doesn't want to go there. He wants to be safe. He wants to be out of the way of the heresy. Let the heresy happen over there. That's fine. But he doesn't want to get into that. I'm not going to spoil it, but the reason that Cole gets as far as he does, it's a little bit obvious when it starts, but it doesn't make it any less interesting.
Okay, interesting.
When it turns around and you see what's happened, and you see what he's done and how he's done it, you just, that's nice. That's very nice. I like that.
Yeah, interesting.
And
interesting.
His friend,
I mean, anything.
Oh my God, did they really, really get you with his friend?
Yeah. But like anything involving Belisarius, I'm kind of there, whether it's in the fiction or in the general background. I like him. In fact, you know that triumvirate of characters you got from the Cadia, Belisarius, Inquisitor Greyfax, and Saint Celeste.
Yep, I remember. Yeah.
Totally there. Love them all. In the fiction, they're all brilliant.
So one of the cool things about the great work is that it's all set on the Emperor's Scythe's homeworld, where there's a giant mountain, which is, where they set up their base. And the mountain is doing weird things, messing with people's minds.
Okay. Right, okay.
So the next book that I read after that was Beastgrave.
Ah, now that one I definitely haven't read.
Beastgrave is all about a giant mountain that is exhibiting magic powers that messes with people's minds.
Oh, okay, so there's a theme running through
I was
here.
kind of weirded out by the fact that the same thing's happening here. It's just... Well, what? Hang on.
Not by the same writer.
No, it's not. It's Seal Werner.
So just a case of convergence happening there, convergent evolution.
It's just one of those weird things. I was a bit surprised by that one, to be honest. Hang on.
Yeah, that is slightly like, okay, I've just seen this over in 40k. What's going on there?
Beastgrave is really good. It is really, really good. It is absolute pulp and is pointless, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's often where AOS is best, to be honest. I mean, I love a lot of the horror stuff that's set in AOS is fantastic. I really like the horror stuff, but I think it works best when it really does go for that prog rock album cover ethos, where it's not weighty, but it's beautiful,
The coolest thing about Beastgrave is that there is no human characters in it.
Oh, okay.
It's a team of Sylvaneth hunting, chasing the Root Chopper, which is a Beastman warlord.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. So the writers got to think about how they portray these characters without making them too human. And
he does a fantastic job.
Does a good job. Because that is often one of the problems in this kind of universe. It's not just a problem with 40k or with AOS. It's a problem with any universe that has non-human characters. They're often far too human in the way they're portrayed.
There's a wonderful little sequence where there's these giant bee-type creatures, and they're buzzing along, and they stab something, and then they fly away. And the creature lies there, and it dies painfully over multiple hours. Then they wait for it to putrefy, then they come back and start sucking up all the nutrients. Right? So it's quite nasty. So
that's
the
interesting.
beastmen come along it, and it's all like, you dare attack me, They try to rip these things apart. The Sylvaneth walk back, and because they don't have skin or blood, they don't get bothered by them.
Yeah,
and so
of course.
There's a lot more of look at these creatures, aren't they wonderful? Oh God, what are they doing to that moose?
Yeah, interesting. I've got to read more of the AOS books. Definitely, I really do, because the fiction that was set in the fantasy setting when it was the old world, I always found to be a bit lacking.
I would go for anything that C.L. Werner writes. So the Silver Shard or City of Secrets, obviously. Pestilence is a really good one, actually. Any of the ones with really weird titles.
Okay.
But what I would say is worth a read is Ghoul Slayer.
Ghoul Slayer. Oh,
I'm
Gotrek.
going to talk about the Gotrek books in a minute, because oh my god, right?
They're back with a vengeance, aren't they? They really are. They've become a thing again.
Oh wow! So
they've so become
Ghoul
a thing.
Slayer is great. There's no other way around that. Ghoul Slayer is fantastic. It is. There's a sequence where you know exactly what's happening because you keep flashing to the ghouls' point of view. So there's this army of ghouls, and being proper flesh-eater courts, they see themselves as being kings. They see themselves as being lords. They are going out because the other kingdoms have slighted them and thought them weak. So they're going out to prove themselves to be, a powerful kingdom again. Yeah,
a powerful kingdom, yeah, of course.
So that's all happening. And it flashes through the mentalities. So there's a point where there's this big battle happening, and the king, the Ghoul King, who's he I can't remember his name now, but he sees himself as being a proper regal, and he's shouting at these peasants from this other kingdom, like, "I will not kill you. You may live. Just do not attack. Surrender." And they're like, "What are you? What are you?" And he's just going, "Pardon?"
Yeah, he doesn't understand, obviously.
Can you please stop attacking me now? What are you?
Yeah. And I imagine his speech is probably just like snarls and interesting. Interesting. It's kind of sad in a way, isn't it?
They are so sad.
It's kind of sad. I mean, there's an innocence to them as a result of that delusion, isn't there?
Massively so. I feel so bad for the ghouls. It's unreal. Throughout this book, we shouldn't. They're horrible, but this happens, and he kills them and starts eating, and it flashes to why was I remembering that moment? I'm not on the battlefield anymore. I'm in my castle with my queen, and we're having a banquet.
Dear.
And that's how it keeps happening. Things flash like that.
Yeah.
The hallucinations.
So even time is distorted, and they're properly mad, aren't they? I mean, their minds are completely broken. Yeah.
And there's a sequence where the curse gets broken, and the one of the ghouls sees himself and his everyone else for who he is, and that's not nice. Harsh.
That's not nice.
No, it actually really isn't, because it's not done as a here is your punishment. Yeah, it is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's sad because that is essentially everything they've ever believed and how they've defined just ripped away from them and revealed to them. Yeah, not nice at all. Not pleasant.
And then running from that, I got Realm Slayer.
Oh, so it's carried on, yeah?
Realm Slayer, Blood of the Old World. Right, so I think I talked about it when Realm Slayer, the first one, came out. There's a sequence in Realm Slayer which really brought the shivers up my spine. It made me feel so very sad. And it's when Gotrek talks to Snorri Nosebiter in the Land of the Dead. And my first thought was, no, you leave Snorri alone. Snorri's suffered enough. This does it again. In a different way. But it absolutely harrowed me. And I don't want to try and spoil too much. There's a sequence towards the end where they remove music. The music in the background fades out, and it's replaced with the scribbling of Felix writing in his diary.
Oh.
And it's when you realise what's Felix writing and where it's from, the shivers went down my spine, because it is goddamn beautiful. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that's not even getting into all the wondrousness that is the Gotrek meeting up with the Seraphon and just laughing at them.
Oh dear. So they are sort of officially becoming a little bit of a joke.
It's so weird, because Gotrek just sits there and just points and laughs at this skink,
Okay.
the skink lord, and it's like, look at you, you're ridiculous.
Oh dear. Fair enough, I suppose. Fair enough. I mean, I've actually been reading Guy Haley as well. I read Plague War, which I believe you've already read.
Plague War.
Interesting.
Plague War is a really good book with one of the best endings to a book I've come across in years.
I really enjoyed it, I've got to say. I liked the way it played with the politics of what's going on in the 40k universe at the moment. I mean, one of the big themes in the book is the way you have these incredible tensions between the faithful elements of the Imperium. So the ecclesiarchy, the sororitas, the just the priesthood themselves. There is actually a really cool character who is a priest, and he's really quite likable. He's really interesting. And weighed against that, you have, of course, the Primaris, you have Robert Gilman. All of whom are entirely secular. Entirely secular, to the point whereby you've got Primaris Marines who are being inducted into old and established chapters who are rankling with the ideologies of those chapters because they're far too superstitious and far too faith-led. It's interesting. I mean, I like those tensions. I really, really like them. You've got Gilman getting pissed off with the ecclesiarchy and with the faithful elements of the but you've also got evidence that the faithful elements may be what's necessary.
Yep.
Especially against a force like the Death Guard and the Plague Marines and whatnot.
They're a tool, and they're a very, very important part of the machine that the Imperium is.
Yeah, and he's smart enough to overcome his own prejudices to realise that. But it has placed him in a very precarious situation.
Yes, it does.
Because he absolutely abhors those that are called like saints and prophets and who clearly evidence some kind of psychic power. Very clearly. It's fascinating.
The two parts that really stick to my mind. What did you think of Mortarion?
I liked Mortarion. I loved the ideas of Mortarion. I mean, he's quite distant in this book. You see him a couple of times. It's not really like a character study of Mortarion. No. But it does go into a little bit about where he stands in the pantheon of Nurgle, which is phenomenally high. I mean, he can summon Kugarth to his bidding. And Kugarth is one of the highest of the high in Nurgle's esteem. I liked all the banter. I liked the sequences where you got to actually see the character of the Nurgle demons and what they were up to. Like, there's that entire sequence where you actually focus on Kugarth as a character and how miserable he is. And how even, like, the Sloppity Bile Pipers can't cheer him up. I liked all that. I thought that was really, really fun. There is a great sequence in it that really stuck in my mind where there's a Null, one of the Void Maidens, one of the Sisters of Silence, and she has this effect on some of the Death Guard, some of the Plague Marines, whereby the delusion that Nurgle's gift induces is swept away. So they start to realise what they are and what they've become. And that's interesting. I liked that a lot as a concept. That's really wonderful. Because a lot of them just collapse weeping and shrieking at what they've become, which is wonderful. I mean, that's a great concept. My only problem with the book was that it lacked focus.
It is a little all over the place, which Dark Imperium was as well.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place. Like, there's no clear protagonist. There's no clear narrative through line. And there are certain characters I wanted it to follow. I mean, for my money, if I were writing it, it would have been from the perspective almost exclusively of the priest character.
Yeah, because when that book gets great, it's when it's through his eyes.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
To talk a little bit about the final chapter, I don't know how you felt about it, but I thought that was the most powerful part of the book. Because you see Gilliman as he is, not the figurehead, or the person that he wants to be seen as. You see who Gilliman is, and there's a line in it, and I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like the Fury split his face, and I saw how truly inhuman he was, or something like that.
Yeah, you see the despair, don't you, that's in Guilliman at the minute, and it's, there is this white-hot rage at everything that has been done over the last 10,000 years, at what the Imperium has become, at the impossible position he's been placed in, at just the way reality has worked out. It's just everything he was born to combat and to stop. That's what the Imperium has become. And he's even now got doubts as to whether that was what the Emperor intended all along.
So
which is really cool.
I like Guilliman not being completely...
perfect.
He's not. He's a long way from.
Me too. I like that. I like that a lot.
These two books have made Guilliman into a really fascinating character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me there were lots of different stories happening here. Like, on the one hand, you've got all the tensions between Typhus and Mortarion, which I liked, but there wasn't enough of it. Then you've got the tensions between Guilliman and the Ecclesiarchy and the Saints and whatnot. That was interesting, but not enough of it. You've got the moments when it focuses on particular Astra Militarium characters or on one of the saintly characters like the girl. But again, because it keeps flipping around all over the place, it's difficult to get an anchor on. It's well written. The sequences are all well written. The characters are good and interesting and complex, and it plays with the politics, I found, really well. It addresses the ambiguity, but it is all over the place.
I think at the time when I first read it that it needed a through line. It desperately needs a through line.
It does. It needs something to cohere it all. Because what it actually feels like is it could have been a book of short stories, rather than a narrative. The one narrative I just did not need? It's the one with the Primaris Marine who becomes a Nova Marine.
Oh, yeah. I'd actually forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is it. It goes nowhere. It goes absolutely nowhere. You don't need that through line at all. You don't need that narrative at all in this book. It just stops at one point, and you stop having that character turn up. And it's like, well, that felt like it was building to something. Like maybe the tensions between this new Marine and the Nova Marines was going to boil over at some point. And it doesn't. And you're kind of like, well, what was the point of it then? Maybe that could have been introduced somewhere else as a short story or as whatever, or as a novel in and of itself. But it feels like there's lots of conflicting ideas that really are struggling for breathing space in this book.
Yes, I agree with you there. I think you're probably right there, actually, that at some point that was meant to be a book of short stories, and it was decided to intermix them within themselves.
It just has that feeling to me. I imagine that may have been what it was originally, because it even scans like that. You can take like the chapter with Kugarth. The chapter with Kugarth, where it focuses explicitly on Kugarth, is a short story in and of itself.
Yeah, completely.
You can take it out of the book, read it, and it works as a short story. And there's a lot of that in it. The sequence where the priestly character, whose name I can never remember, is remembering how he first became a priest. When the Alpha Legion attack the temple that he's been trained in, and they massacre and mutilate all of his brothers and his mentors, but he happens to be away doing something with the townsfolk or something, so he's protected. That's an interesting story in and of itself, and has a through line. It has a beginning, a middle, and a kind of end. That could function as a short story. The sequence with the saint, when she, the child saint, when she steps up onto the precipice, and she turns the bile and the filth that the plague engines are spewing into water. That's kind of a story in and of itself,
Yeah.
it didn't need them all to be together, because they don't ever really come together, I found. Although they're all individually interesting, and I liked all of the characters in them, they never come together as a coherent narrative.
I'm thinking, it was Dark Imperium the same, where it had a lot of frayed ends that weren't really tying together?
Yeah.
'Cause
I think so. I mean, maybe a bit too much ambition
maybe.
here. A bit too many story arcs, too many characters, without a cohering factor, without something to bring them together. I mean, for my money, if they want to write, if they really want to write a story about Guilliman in particular, just make it about him.
Yeah.
Make him the protagonist. Make everything through his eyes. It's interesting. There's enough of the human in him to make it interesting.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
He is one of the more human Primarchs, So, and he's complex enough for it to be interesting. And, if you really need to, then you can introduce tertiary characters like Marneus Calgar and Tigurius to see him through, whose eyes to see him through. That's interesting. But there's maybe too much going on here for my money. It's well written.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with any of the individual stories or anything like that. But it is all over the place. It's scattershot.
That's a good word for it. Yeah.
And sometimes, it flips from one narrative to another, and because it doesn't transition that well, or you're kind of like, well, who's this? Who is this character? I can't quite remember.
Yeah. I remember when I read it, there were points where characters would reappear and I'd recognise the name, but I couldn't tell you who they were.
It kept happening with me with the Nova Marine.
Yeah.
The Primaris Marine, who becomes a Nova Marine. Every time he turned up, I was like, I'm supposed to know this guy, and I don't. I can't remember who he is, so, it didn't really mean a great deal, I like the notion. I think the concept of there being tensions between Primaris Marines and the chapters they're inducted into, is brilliant, and that could be wonderful. I mean, there's a whole raft of stories to be told there, like the Primaris Marines who are inducted into the Dark Angels and the Unforgiven chapters, for example. What happens when they start realizing what those chapters are all about and the secrets that they keep? There's a lot to the Blood Angels, the Primaris Marines who are inducted into the Blood Angels and then realize that the Blood Angels are actually locking up those of their members who become abominations, There's a lot to be said there. There's a lot of interesting stuff to explore there. But it hasn't really been done successfully yet, I would say.
No, I'd agree with that. I think that the biggest issue with both Dark Imperium and Plague War as pieces of work is that it's trying to cram moving the narrative forward into a single book.
I think market forces may have played a part in that, because both of these books were obviously released to coincide with the Cadia campaign. And to introduce all of the new elements and explore all of the new stuff. You had the new Robert Gilman miniature, you had Greyfax, you had Saint Celestine, you had all the new stuff coming out. And I think that may have played a part in it. It may have been like, well, we've got to introduce this, we've got to introduce that, we've got to set up the new state of play. So rather than telling the story that the writer wanted to tell, you've got all of these other elements which were maybe synthetically added in later. It's a problem that you often get, actually, in this kind of work. I mean, those of you who have listened to my latest Horus Heresy podcast will know that I did Fallen Angels, and that book has the same problems.
Right, yeah.
It's a book of two halves, so you've got half of it that's absolutely standout wonderful, which is obviously the story the writer wanted to tell. And then you've got the other half, which is just the bolter porn side. It's just the action sequences. And the book flips between those two narratives. But the raw fact of the matter is, the bits where it is just the bolter porn, you can just flip over them. because they have no bearing on the wider narrative. They just have no relevance, and they're just not that interesting.
No.
They are just not that interesting. Whereas the half that's dealing with what the author wanted to tell is wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? When you're writing something that you don't yourself have any real interest in, it can come across as being very dry.
It's so clear. It's so clear to any reader that anyone who reads regularly can tell when a writer isn't interested in what they're writing. They so can. And when that happens, you lose them. Yeah. You lose your audience. If you're not interested, they're not going to be interested. They're not obliged to be, you know? If you can't be bothered to be interested, then why should they? It's a real problem, especially when you've got like a mandate to have a particular type of story. Yeah. Or like a regular... It's the problem that you get with like comic books, where you have a mandate to have like an issue out every week or every month or whatever. There's often not enough stories to tell.
Yeah, true enough.
Or meaningful stories, or stories that the writers want to explore. So you get these very empty, very hollow stories that are just rehashes of what's gone before.
Unless, of course, it's Peter David's run on the Hulk, which is... in 8 years, and never once did he do a truly bad story. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. That is ridiculous. Or unless it's 2000 AD, which has been consistently brilliant since like the 1970s.
Speaking of comics, though, George, in the time that we've been away, something has popped up.
Oh yeah, weirdness.
Yeah. So Marvel Comics,
unexpected,
and Warhammer Games Workshop are forging together something.
I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, you know, I'm not. I think it could be very good for the company.
Of course it will.
In the sense that it gains like massive exposure. It really does. I mean, Marvel is obviously huge. It could be a way into a lot of stuff for the company, including movies. I mean, like you know, big budget movies. It could be a way into this stuff. It could also mean the creation of entire, like really widely spread, established comic books. Which is no bad thing necessarily. My fear is that the influence of Marvel could affect the material.
I don't think that's a big problem. So, Marvel has on its roster guys like Kieran Gillian, right? Kieran Gillian has done Fantastic Four. Basically, go and look up Kieran Gillian. He's done tons. He even managed to get Marvel to do a choose-your-own-adventure comic once.
Really? Interesting.
Which on the first page has Deadpool playing Hero Quest, holding a miniature going, is this a Skaven?
All right, fair enough.
I think it's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel's comic book universes. No. But as long as the essential ethos of the Games Workshop universes is maintained, then it could be really interesting. It could be massively interesting.
It would be bad business to do it otherwise. Yeah, and first and foremost, Marvel Comics is a business. It knows what it's doing. You know, there's a reason it's successful. You know, I'm with you. Me and superhero comics have fallen out. We're done. You know.
Yeah. I'm largely not that fussed unless they do something really interesting.
Well, you know, this is where I was leading to. Of late, Marvel's done two things, and it's made me do something I haven't done in many years, which is get a monthly comic. Right?
Oh, right,
the
okay.
X-Men reboot, right? It's not X-Men. It's not superheroes. I don't know what it is.
But that's no bad thing, is it? It's no bad thing at all.
Not even slightly. It is absolutely fantastic. If somebody asks me to try and explain it, I'm just going to look at you and wave my hands around going,
don't know. Yeah.
It's set in two different comics. One is The Powers of X, which is entirely based on Krakoa the Living Island, which is now the nation of mutants. Where political strife takes place and where they're pushing to have a place in the world by curing all human diseases. It's very odd. And then the next one, House of X. Is it House of X? power, whatever it is. It's set during now 100 years in the future and 250,000 years in the future.
Okay, so it's basically a science fiction story,
Massively.
yeah?
But everything that happens in one feeds the other.
Okay, that's quite cool. That's clever. So you've got two concurrent narratives at two different times that feed into one another.
4 different times.
4 different times.
3
Interesting.
different times in House of X, and the 1 time in Powers of X.
Okay, now that is fascinating. As a narrative exercise, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to maintain coherence and consistency. But that's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
There's multiple timelines taking place because one of the characters...
Right.
Oh, yeah. One of the characters' mutant power is every time she dies, she goes back to her birth and relives the time. But she has the knowledge of the last life.
Right. So there are multiple... That's a brilliant mutant power, by the way.
Yeah.
I want that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like a fantasy, isn't it? That's a proper sort of power fantasy. Yeah, fascinating. I want that one. Definitely. That's a wonderful power.
And the other one they've got going at the moment is the Immortal Hulk, which is a down and out horror comic. In the way that It Chapter 1, it was a horror film.
Yeah.
You know, there is no adventure taking place here. There's no heroics. There is, however, a sequence with Hulk's head in a jar screaming but not making any noise because he has no lungs to push air through him.
Okay. Fair enough. So they're going all out with this, yeah?
With this idea in mind that Marvel can try to put their hand to anything, I'm quite happy with seeing what comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued more than anything. I think I would like. I mean, it may be something. Whatever they do, whatever the hell they ultimately do, I hope it's something meaningful.
Yeah, same.
I just hope it's something that has some real weight to it. That that has real narrative inspiration and isn't just like a corporate thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that corporate nature to it because that's who Disney are. That's who Marvel are.
Yeah,
I do want to say, though, to all the people who are out there who are concerned that Disney is about to buy Games Workshop, trust me, they're not. Games Workshop's too small.
That's not going to happen. Yeah, and also just outside of the ethos of what Disney are about, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I can see that. Although,
I mean, I'm not sure it even matters to this point. I mean, Disney's such a rampant company.
Saying that, though, 20 years ago this week, they brought out a David Lynch film.
Oh,
right,
okay.
Straight Story. Yeah.
Okie dokes.
So,
Okie dokes.
If you want to say that Disney is this, just remember, 20 years ago, this week.
Yeah, David Lynch.
And not a Buena Vista or a Viacom film. It was a Disney movie.
It was an actual Disney film.
Straight Story. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think so. So
interesting stuff.
It's an interesting time to watch The Hobby because there's going to be...
It is, isn't it? I mean, it's upheaval, isn't it? All the time, it seems. There's eruptions happening across the board. Just stuff that you just could not possibly anticipate, just springing up from nowhere.
The animated Blood Angels films in TV series is incoming.
Ah, what the...
right.
Bandai
did some toys.
Yeah, got the action figures knocking about. Not my thing, but I'm kind of glad they're out there. Yeah. I mean, it's something that will draw more people to the hobby. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. There's a lot going on at the moment with the company, and it's fascinating to watch because this is wholly new territory at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, the company's transmuted so much from what it used to be that it's nigh unrecognizable.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's very good.
Oh, my God. I mean, for the most part, I would say it's very, very good. Well, you know, we've spoken about it a lot on this podcast, but there was a point when it was going to die.
Yeah, it came so close to being done. It's unreal.
Like that close. I mean, it went basically down the Lego route, didn't it? You know, where it came that close to liquidating, basically. And, you know, sadly, it's sad to say, but through every fault of its own at the time.
Without a doubt.
every fault of its own. I mean, even like the really hardcore, the people who really enjoy this hobby were just dropping away from it, just slowing away from it. But boy, has it changed it around.
Yeah. Well,
it's the opposite problem is, where do I stop? My engagement with this hobby, at what point do I actually say that's enough?
Well, that's one of the reasons I had to drop 40k and Necromunda, because it's impossible to keep going with everything.
It is impossible. You have to focus on certain things that you really are taken by. And beyond that, nothing else, there's so much. Even armies that I had no interest in once upon a time, I really like now.
Yeah, a really good... Thank you, George, for the best segue that we'll ever get. So I got the Cities of Sigmar book.
Yeah, is it good? I haven't got it yet.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
George, this seems incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
So,
again,
it does everything you expect it to do, right? Even with your heightened knowledge of what they've done for the last couple of books, right? It is really, really good.
Right.
Not only does it do that, it goes a little bit above and beyond at some points. Because it tells you all about the cities, right? As you would imagine from something called Cities of Sigmar. Each and every city is now, in my brain, a living, breathing place with all the different things it needs. Right? It is filled in the blanks so goddamn well.
It's a must-buy book.
It really is. If you want to know... I mean, do you want to know about the history of Azerheim? It's in there.
It's all in there, yeah.
Azerheim's the city.
Gosh.
Azerheim, the city of Sigmar, the God King's own palace, yeah. Oh, it's in there. It's in there. Do you want to know what it's like being a merchant in Asenheim? There you go. Do you want to know what it's like being a tramp in Asenheim? It's in there.
There you
are. Do you want to know what it's like to be the type of person whose job it is to transport water from Gairan to Ashqui from Hammerhal? There you go. It's in there.
Now you know, yeah?
It's in there.
Now you
Everything's in there. This book feels like a precursor to the AOS RPG game.
Isn't this exactly what we've been talking about, like several episodes? We have said that one of the things we would love to see is more about what it's like to be a normal person, to be a just nobody, basically, in the mortal realms. And here we are.
Yep.
Yeah? It's almost like someone's listening. It's almost like someone's listening and reacting, isn't it? Fulgrim! We want to see Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children.
Bring me Chaos Dwarfs. Bring me Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Bring.
You know what? I would not be surprised at all to see some form of the Chaos. They're not going to be called Chaos Dwarfs.
One turned up in Warcry,
He
ridiculous.
did, didn't he? He did turn up in Warcry. They're not going to be called Chaos Dwarfs, obviously, but some version of them will turn. I've got almost no doubt, almost no doubt whatsoever, that at some point some incarnation of them will turn up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely bang on. I think they'll spin out of the Fire Slayers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. And they'll have the machine elements of the Caradhran overlords as well, but different, obviously. Maybe more ground-based, for one thing. More aggressive, but yeah, they'll turn up.
Do you want to know?
They'll turn up.
The best part of Cities of Sigmar is for me. And
what's that? What have they done?
It's a weird thing because I am always going to be the narrative guy. I'm always going to be the guy that finds the fiction being the thing that grabs me and pulls me in.
Me too.
The best thing in the book is actually a rule, or not even a rule, a way of playing an army. Have you seen the options for battle lines?
No.
You can run battle line steam tanks.
Okay.
You can run battle line gyrocopters.
So they've just thrown it open. Then
Pretty much.
You can you can put together kind of what type of army you like.
So the idea is that whatever your city is, whatever city you're running from, you're running your army from, you have absolute freedom in building it.
So do those rules stack with the rules that pertain to the realms?
Yes.
Really? So let me get this. So you've got when you pick an army, right? You can determine what city it comes from, and that affects it. That gives it special rules, right? You can pick what realm it comes from, and that also gives it special rules. And then within the battle tome itself, you can pick whatever subdivision of that army it is, and that also gives it special rules. So the degree of customization is insane. So you can have like Ideneth Deepkin that come from this particular city in the realm of Ulgu.
Well, yes and no. You could have the Ideneth Deepkin as an ally because they're not a city.
They're not a city of Sigma. Yeah, so it's just the mortal characters. Yeah, it's just the
human elf and Duradin.
Some dark elf knocking about as well.
Here's one for you, right? So say, I'm going to probably get this a little bit wrong, and I do apologise for that. Mm-hmm. Say you run a Hammerhal army, right? And your Hammerhal army is nothing but ranks upon ranks of gunners, right?
Yeah.
So you've now got whatever it's called, the trait that any shots that miss in the first volley, you can re-roll, okay?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now you do that in not Gairan, the other one. What's the realm of beasts? Gur. Right, so you do that in Gur. Right? Which means that you get double shots.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So what you've now got is, 40 handgunners. So now you roll 80 shots. I think they've got 2 shots each, so that's 140 dice. Any that miss in that first volley, you get to re-roll.
Oh my god. So there's potential for taking out the enemy in like the first turn.
I mean, obviously that's an extreme version,
That's an extreme, but even so, it's interesting. It's fascinating, that is. It's just like, it's the narrative structure of the armies now. The fact that you can do all of this wonderful, weird stuff, and people are going to do it. They can actually tailor the way their armies look based on all of these. It's great. I mean, it's wonderful. Narrative upon narrative upon narrative. Wonderful. More of that, please.
This is why I had to drop 40k, because AOS it plays in my brain garden. This is everything I ever wanted out of Warhammer Fantasy Battle being handed to me.
There's just so much, isn't there? There's so much going on there. It's ridiculous.
When I came out of Fantasy Battle, it was you were playing the same army versus the same 5 armies every single time, because that's all there ever was. Because there was no point, all right, then I'll take my high elf army. Oh dear. I've been wiped out by your Chaos Vanguard in the second turn.
Yes, because there was a point where the Chaos armies were ridiculous at the end of Fantasy Battle.
Oh yeah.
They were ridiculous. I mean, I used to play them back then, so I could remember. They were absurd. If you take Chaos Knights, you're probably gonna win. It's as simple as that. Chaos Knights, that Helmore cannon thing that they used to have.
Yes. Oh, feck.
You're fine. Chaos Lord on a dragon or a Chimera or something. Jobs are good.
I always remember when my Boar Boys became ineffectual. And it was the day that those Chaos Knights got pushed up to the nth degree.
When they had like their ensorcelled weapons and their I remember.
It was always you threw your balls at them and it slowed them down, caused enough wounds to get them to keep them busy until you managed to get some destruction in for the rest of the army. Oh no, threw them in and they were just mincemeated. Just
mangled. Yeah. I remember that because, Chaos Knights way back when were always the best cavalry in the Fantasy Battle game. They just were. They had the best armor, they had the best weapons, they were just nasty pieces of work. And then in 9th edition, right towards the end, they introduced a new version of Chaos Knights that had ensorcelled weapons and ensorcelled armor, and their weapons counted as magic weapons, so they caused more wounds, and they also introduced like Khorn Chaos Knights on Juggernauts and Slaanesh Chaos Warriors on Steeds of Slaanesh, which you can still use, by the way.
Yeah.
But back then, it was insane.
It was unrealistic. You could do nothing. You couldn't even keep them pinned.
You couldn't defend against them because they had Chaos Armor, which back then was the best armor in the game. It was a 4+ unmodifiable save. It was ridiculous. They were undestroyable. They were effectively unbeatable. And then you take into account all of the magic banners that could give them extra protection or could give them ward saves, all of the spells that you could be cast on them to give them extra buffs and whatnot. There were things you could do in like a Zeech Chaos Warrior army back then that were obscene.
Yeah, that's a very good word for it.
It was just... I've still got those books and I flick through them every now and then. It's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was too much. Way too much.
It was ridiculous.
It was because Chaos was selling really well, so they made Chaos to be the most powerful army.
And which it didn't even need because it already was. It didn't even need it.
Earlier on about the making these horrible mistapes back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shall we talk about some Eldari before we close up?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, obviously in 40k what we're having is Phoenix Rising, which is the big new campaign, which is obviously going. I mean, it set the plan of 40k for at least the next year. I think at least throughout 2020.
I honestly thought you were about to say Phoenix Right there. Yeah. Which then Phoenix Rising, Attorney
Objection.
at Law. I'm all over that.
Yeah. Objection. No. But yeah, Phoenix Rising, I still don't entirely know what's going on with it. I don't think anybody does at this point. No. We know that it's going to be a series of narrative campaigns that come with boxed sets that move the 40k universe on. The first one we've just had, we're always up for pre-order, I believe, this weekend, is it? Yeah, is the Eldari. So we have Jane Zar, the Phoenix Lord of the Howling Banshees, who's got a new miniature. A Phoenix Lord with a new miniature. People have been hankering for this for decades.
I can't help but think that this is a fever dream.
Yeah, literally for decades people have wanted this. Now, the old Phoenix Lords, the old metal ones, they've been around since I first started the hobby.
Crike, yeah.
They were some of the first miniatures I ever had. I remember having my lead Fugan the Burning Lance, my lead Karandras the Shadow Stalker, my lead Baharoth the Cry of the Wind. I remember this so well. I particularly remember Baharoth because his bloody backpack would never stay bloody glued on.
Yeah.
And also, because Fugan's lance, his burning lance, it's so high it kept bending. It kept getting bent. So he had a bit of a droopy lance at one point.
Poor man. Now that certain copyrights have vanished, there is easy ways of solving that. Just ask your doctor.
Yes, of course.
I remember having Mugen Ra.
Oh, Morgan Ra! What a lovely character he is.
Oh,
love Morgan Ra.
He eventually ended up being a Legion of the Damned commander.
Yeah. A lot of people did that with Morgan Ra because he doesn't look like an elven miniature.
Nowhere near.
He's big and he's bulky and he looks like a space marine, does he not? Yeah, and I have no doubt, as a result of this, that the other Phoenix Lords will shortly follow. It won't just be Jane Zar. We'll get Azure Men and Karandras and all of the others. And of course, opposed to them, we have the Drakari. We have the Incubi. Yes. Dratzhar, Master of the Blades, who hasn't had a new miniature since 3rd Ed.
Crikey, it will be as well, yeah.
Yeah, not as old as Jane Zar, but still knocking it, still pretty old. I love Dratzhar. I love him because of all the mystery surrounding him. Is he Hachra, the father of the striking scorpions, the fallen phoenix? Entirely likely. Entirely likely. But like Cypher, they'll never answer it.
And nor should they.
They'll never tell you who he really is. No, he's one of the consistent mysteries of the 40k universe. What we do know is that he's the current presiding lord of the Incubi subsect in Commodore. But what I want to know is, because there's a new book as well which explores like all the new tensions with the Eldari and what's going on in the 40k universe. What I want to know is, what is his place? What's he doing? Why has he come out now? You know, what are the Incubi doing? Are there loyalties with the Ajayani? The Inari? Who knows? Who knows at this point?
I don't think it's ever going to happen, but what I really want to see is the Inari pulling more and more people to it. And then launching a civil war.
Amongst the Eldari? Ooh, now that could be interesting.
I'm in two minds, because one, it's such a wonderful idea. You know, the race that's on the brink of extinction suddenly starts to self-cannibalize to save itself.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, given what the Inari believe.
But I don't... And this is why I'm not a professional fiction writer. I don't see a way of landing that doesn't just wipe out the Eldar.
That's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem, because they are already on the brink. Yeah. They're already at the point where there are not that many of them, compared to, say, some of the other more prosperous races in the 40k universe, like the Orcs, for example. Anything that causes mass damage to the Eldari is problematic.
Yeah, but on the other hand...
Massively problematic.
The idea, the wealth of... story you could get from something trying to cannibalize to save itself, I think is huge, and it would work so well. I mean,
on the other hand, what they could do is just AOS it, and have them auto-destruct, have them utterly annihilate themselves, and have the Inari be right. So you have this sudden psychic explosion that equals the birth of Slaanesh in terms of the scale of it, yeah? It shakes the universe to its very foundations. And suddenly, you have the Eldari reborn in a kind of spirit form. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? A united race, completely different from how they used to be. Not Drukhari, not Ajayani, but a new race, born of the power of their own extinction.
That would be a really nice way to go.
That would be interesting.
Is that shaking things up too much, though?
That might be too far. That might be too far, because we already have long established the Ajayani and the Drukhari and whatnot. It might be a smidge too far. I don't think they'll ever do it. But you never know.
Enough, yeah. At this point in time, we're just trying to guess within the lines of what we've been given.
This is just wild speculation. It's wild speculation. All we really know is that there are boxed sets for each of the armies. That's all we really know. There's going to be 2 of the armies in every boxed set, and a book to go with them that explores what they're doing. There's going to be rules updates for all of them. The next one is rumoured to be Black Templars and Chaos Space Marines. So we'll see what's been going on there. And when they say Chaos Space Marines, by all accounts, it is specifically Chaos Space Marines. So not the Thousand Suns, not the Death Guard. They'll get their own books and boxed sets later down the line. It's the vanilla Chaos Space Marines, which makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. From what I hear, though, one of the rumours that is chiming is that unlike the other forces, the Chaos Space Marines are not going to get new Legion traits. The reason being, what they're planning to do is what they've done with the Imperial Space Marines. So what they're going to get eventually is supplement books for each of the established legions. That's cool. Which is cool by me. That's perfectly fine by me.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's what I want them to do. That's what I want them to do. That allows them to expand the rules and the background for these armies in ways they've never done before. So, yeah, go for it.
All over that.
Very pleased. Very pleased. So yeah, I still don't know what this is going to lead to. I don't know what shape the 40k universe is going to be when it comes out. But I hope it does really shake it up. I really do. Give us another Cicatrix Maledictum. Give us something that really changes the shape of this universe.
I think that's going to be every couple of years. That's what we're going to get, isn't it? Something else that's going to just beat humanity to death with its own hubris.
Yeah, come on, give us something. Give us the death of the Emperor. Give us the re-emergence of a particular chaos power. Give us the Imperial Civil War. That's the Civil War I do want to see.
I honestly feel at some point they are going to kill the Emperor.
Something's going to happen with him. I think they're going to move him somehow. Yeah. I don't know how. I don't know, quite what they're going to do with him, but he's been just sat on the golden throne for so long. So long. They need to do something with him.
Yeah. But I know the fear of doing something like that is massive, because it's such a risk.
Well, it changes the shape of the metaphysics of the universe.
Massively so.
So it's profound. If they do it, then it needs to be big. Yeah. It needs to be something that establishes a new status quo. If something happens to the Emperor, then it will be the equivalent of the shift from the old world to the AOS realms.
Totally.
It'll change the universe. Because, the way I would like them to go is that he's actually been sealed within that rotting shell on the Golden Throne by powers that want to maintain their authority in his name. And what he's actually trying to do is ascend into the warp to become a new power,
I want it to be Cypher gets in, steals his body, and then leaves parts of it as a bread trail for other people to follow.
That would be fun.
Or he just starts throwing fingers at people's eyes.
What is Cypher trying to do anyway?
I don't know.
That is one of the big mysteries, isn't it? What is he up to?
I don't even think it's possible to make any kind of informed guess because he's killing Fallen.
We know that he's making his way towards Terra and to the Emperor. He desperately wants to see the Emperor. That was the deal he made with Guilliman when he led him to Terra, which Guilliman then broke,
Naughty Guilliman.
So much for honor, Mr. Ultramarine, Mr. Squeaky Clean. So what does that mean? What is he trying to do? Is he trying to kill the Emperor? Is he trying to save him? Does he just want to make an atonement for his actions on Caliban?
I think he knows something. I think he
does too.
He knows the secret to what's going on with the Golden Throne. And I would like to think that he's on his way to Terra to turn it off, one way or another.
Yep, that's what I would like to see too. Yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Whether or not that's the case, I do not know.
Well, I don't think anybody knows at this point. There may not be an overall plan here. It may just be one of those mysteries that they're just going to leave hanging forever.
Are you saying that 40k, much as like in real life, there is no overall plan?
Oh, yeah, okay. It's actually just flailing out of all control. But he is... And also, what is the power that looks after him? The power that spirits him away whenever he's captured, that keeps him from harm. Who is that? Is it the Watchers in the Dark?
Whatever the Watchers are.
And that's another thing. What the hell are they?
That's a question I've wanted answered for 30 years.
They turn up in the Horus Heresy books. Descent of Angels and Fallen Angels. And they are manipulating the Dark Angels almost from the very beginning.
Really?
Yup. They're there and they are manipulating them. They're pushing them towards a particular destiny. But we don't know what it is. And we don't know what they are either.
I didn't know they turned up in a Horus Heresy book. That's awesome.
Yes. They're there. They are there. They're on Caliban from the very beginning.
Okay.
And nobody knows who they are or what they're doing.
I'm fascinated by the Watchers in the Dark. I've always wanted to know what the hell they are and why.
What's their agenda? Are they some sort of warp creature? You know, are they an alien race?
Are they the original inhabitants of Caliban?
They could be. They could very well be. It's impossible to say.
It is, and
it's one of the fundamental mysteries.
I think no matter what the answer is, it's going to be disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if they do provide an answer, then it may be disappointing. We shall see. We shall see. I mean, Lionel Johnson is one of the Primarchs that will come back eventually.
Yeah.
Because he's alive, you know, he is out there somewhere. He was sucked into the warp, so he is around. It's entirely possible for him to come back. What he'll be, or what his loyalties will be, are another matter entirely.
Yeah.
I'd like him to be... You know, if they bring him back, they should bring him back as something monstrous. Bring him back as a big Watcher in the Dark, with the hood and angel wings and
yes,
whatnot.
please.
Yeah, have him fighting alongside the Dark Angels, but nobody outside of the Dark Angels really knows who or what he is. Wouldn't that be
They kind of keep him a secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that not be awesome?
Yeah, because that's a nice pinnacle to everything the Dark Angels have become.
Have him almost be like a demon Primarch.
Wouldn't
that be ace?
That actually leads up to another interesting idea. So we know that at some point there will be an Imperial Civil War, right?
Of course, it's building towards it, isn't
it? So we've thought for a while now that it would be the mutated chapters. Yeah,
like Lehman Russ, the Space Wolves.
They would be the ones who would
the Blood
lead
Angels.
What if it was the Dark Angels?
Yeah, and what if nobody really knows what their agenda is or what their loyalties are? Yeah, that would be really cool.
In order to, keep their secrets.
They're not above
Johnson this writes itself. Johnson reappears. The Dark Angel in a conclave goes absolutely haywire. It's like, oh God, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? This is all horribly wrong. And then, Inquisitors start turning up to investigate something, and they just, out of panic, blow an Inquisitor ship out the sky, which starts off the Imperial Civil War.
Suddenly, you've got problems. Suddenly, you've got problems. Yep. Then the Space Wolves are brought in to bring them to account, and oh dear, it kicks all off, doesn't it? It all goes horribly pear-shaped. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. More Primarchs turning up as well. There's a couple that could potentially... Yagati Kharn could turn up. Korax could turn up.
Well,
there's no reason why not.
Kharn's still kicking about, isn't he? He's...
Yep, Kharn's kicking about. Korax is kicking about. Vulcan is around. Mad.
Yes.
Mad as a box of frogs, but still around.
Yeah.
Quite possibly caught him on if Traz in the Infinites museum pieces. Quite likely. And also, I mean, as we've discussed before, there's a loyalist version of Fulgrim out there too.
The clone,
So imagine bringing him back as a loyalist. Imagine there being loyalist Emperor's children again.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be awesome? That would be fantastic, especially when you've got loyal Fulgrim coming up against demon Fulgrim.
That was the imagery that I just had in my head there of what does that look like?
Yeah, what does that look like? Awesome stuff. I mean, that they likely will never do that.
No, I can imagine that's just going to be too... It's all right for some background background fluff, but trying to get that actually into the game fiction...
To make it work, very hard. Very, very difficult. We will see Fulgrim, though. I mean, we'll see the demon Fulgrim turn up. I think probably sooner rather than later. I think the Emperor's Children will be one of these box sets.
Doesn't it feel like it's been a long time since the last Primarch?
It has been a while. Who was the last? It was Roboot, wasn't it?
Loyalist Primarch, yeah.
Roboot was the last one.
Primarch altogether was Mortarion.
Was it? I thought Mortarion was before Roboot.
No.
No?
It was
okay.
Roboot first, then...
It was Magnus first.
Then Roboot, then Mortarion, yeah.
Then Mortarion, right. So yeah, it has been a while. It has been a long while. I mean, there have been rumours kicking about for ages. Rumours of Angron, rumours of Fulgrim. I mean, Fulgrim's been everywhere because he's in the background all the bloody time. Like, all the time.
And Fulgrim's been... the rumour is that the miniature's ready, it's done.
Yeah. So. By all accounts. I mean, we heard this when we started hearing rumours of the Keeper of Secrets.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
And that is, I mean, obviously that was true. It was done and ready to release.
That was the beginning of this year,
so,
jeez.
It was, yeah, it was. So, I mean, if they're going to do the Emperor's Children, they should really do them, shouldn't they?
Yeah. Please, come on.
They should get them out, you know? Yeah, new Noise Marines, like Slaneshi Terminators, some lovely, like, mortal cultist, array that's like a carnival of excess or something. Yeah.
Oh.
Give us it. Because I can tell you now, if as and when they release them, that'll be the army I focus down on, like, big style.
I can imagine.
Because that will be the one. They combine everything I love most in 40k and in imagery in general. So, got to be done.
As we're now just here begging Games Workshop to release things, I think it's probably time to start closing it down.
Yeah, probably a good idea. It's not necessarily a good show for a podcast, is it? To just sit here begging.
No, please. Also, please don't.
Although, I mean, not only that, we've also had rumours of Perturabo coming back at some point, and Lorgar, who I imagine will, eventually.
I think, all this stuff's going to have to hit, and I think once we're through Psychic stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if Psychic Awakening ends up being another 3-parter. Or,
no, I wouldn't
it runs into the next part. And at the end of the trilogy, that's going to be the next Primarch.
Yeah, whether loyalist or not. Yeah. But by God, I'd love to see Perturabo.
Yeah.
What would he look like, after all this time on Medrengard with his... I imagine he'd look like a really big obliterator.
My
hyper-mutated, infected with the technovirus, Big demonic obliterator.
I can't. Imagery, just too much of it. There's so much I want to see. Oh, man.
Definitely.
It's not fair, is it, George?
There's so much out there already. So much to do.
We still want more,
Still want more, yeah. Well, 'tis the nature of the beast, isn't it?
It really is.
I can't even get my Magnus the Red finished.
I'm sitting here with a steam-powered Cities to Sigmar army that I've been building out of spare parts and things I've got lying around, to the point where I've got a mechanical Luminarch and a steampunk Celestium Hurricanum. And I'm looking at them going, I'm never going to have time to paint these. Why have I started this?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's ridiculous.
Staring forlornly over at the table with all of its miniatures that are half assembled and half painted.
I've got a Skaven army here that needs to be painted. I've got Warcry stuff that needs to be painted. Oh, God. Yeah.
Time and just energy is the thing.
Yes, yeah, that's the other one. It's not so bad if you can, you can get stuff done, but without it taking up actual time, or taking
that's
up
that's the
energy.
problem. That's the problem. I mean, for me, it's the writing. Obviously, that takes precedence, and that is kind of the same reservoir as painting and creating the 40k miniatures. So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's not fair. I have just been sent a message to be told that the next pre-orders for Inferno's out.
Ah, right. Okie cokes.
Right, so I need to sort that out later on today. Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm just going to be ordering the Psychic Awakening. Maybe the book, maybe the box set. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. What mood I'm in.
I like the idea of I'm not going to order anything until I work out my mood for the day.
Yeah. What do I actually want? I don't know yet.
I still don't have Forbidden Power, and I need to get around to getting that bought.
Yeah, actually, because there's a lot in that.
Yeah, I mean...
there's a lot of stuff that you kind of need to know.
It's the big step forward, isn't it? There's a load of background stuff in there, and you get to find out that Sigmar's been a very naughty boy.
A very bad man.
Naughty boy, Sigmar. Naughty.
Like a very, very, very bad man indeed.
Not too much of a god king to go over Nanny's knee.
Although, being the god of all order and law, he'd probably like that.
I'm going to spank some chaos into you. This is only going to get worse, so I think that we need to close it down. So,
probably, yeah.
George, where can people find you if they want?
You can currently find me over at Enigmatic Elegy on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube at Exaggerated Elegy. You can find all of my written work, links to my short story collections, over at strangeplaygrounds.com and on Amazon. Please go particularly take a look at Born in Blood Volume 1. That's the latest. I'm very, very proud of that. And that's largely it, I think, for now.
Okay. I would like to give you something, but I have nothing at the moment. If you are interested in getting some Fluffen Hammer shirts, we now have two designs. We have the Fluffen Hammer logo, and we have Big Hat Dwarf. I love Big Hat Dwarf. Adam Warden has done an amazing bit of work. It's just such a great, silly picture. And we should have a few more of those by the end of the year. So if you check out spreadshirt.com/Fluffenhammer, that should get you the t-shirt designs.
We need to get a flesh mop design.
I am all over that as a plan, and I will try to get that
awesome.
done. I have some other artists who are going to do some work for us, and I'll pass over flesh mop to one of them.
All right, fair enough.
Awesome. There's no way I'm drawing that.
No.
That's such a...
You want to get some hideous hentai artists involved, don't you, or something? No, maybe not. Maybe the artists who worked on Urotsuki Doji.
Oh god, I just threw up in my mouth a bit.
Legend of the Overfiend, you know? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh god, Overfiend. There was an experience.
Yeah. And to think it was one of the first anime ever released over here in the UK.
Yeah. It was one of manga's first ever releases.
It's like, what?
And it wasn't even the first one, it was the third.
And I'm like, what? What are you... As an example of anime, you chose that.
Ah, yes.
All right.
Oh.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Bastards. I remember that coming out, and it was that, Judge, and Dominion Tank Police.
The other two of which I can get. Yeah. You know? They're not great, but they're not terrible.
I will fight you on Dominion Tank Police. Although saying that, new Dominion Tank Police is a hell of a lot better than Dominion Tank Police, but still.
But still, Urotsuki Doshi.
No.
It's like, what were they thinking?
Well, let's just get some hentai.
It just
really is that simple. Let's get some hentai and
it really
sell it
is.
To some 14-year-olds.
Yeah, that was largely it, I think.
Because look, isn't Japanese animation edgy and weird?
Yeah, so let's go for the one that involves let's go for the rapiest, most disturbing, most bizarrely misogynistic one of the lot.
Let's go for the one that has tentacle penises, more than you've ever seen or will see ever again.
Than you've or ever wanted ever to see.
Which is weird, because I remember watching that with a friend of mine. Which, that sounds like a really weird day. And afterwards we realised that actually the story behind it all isn't that bad.
No, it isn't. That's the funny thing. The back mythology is actually really good. And also, the apocalypse at the end of the first film is amazing. It's an amazing sequence. The design of the Overfiend is absolutely wonderful. But it comes with all of the other shit.
Yeah,
the sort of high school, like, all of that nonsense. Could do without that.
Oh, we worked out that if you take out all the horrible porn, it's a 20-minute film with some really good story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. That's
so
about
infuriating.
Right. You've even got some good characters. I like Suikakuju, the demon who fights the man-beast guy. I like him. I think he's really cool. He's got a great design, that sort of kabuki theatre design that he's got
Kabuki
going
Blanca.
on. Yeah, he's quite fun. I like him. Some of the demons are really well designed. They look really interesting, but it's got all the other stuff in it, which just doesn't.
Yes.
For me, you know what it is for me? It's that Japanese thing, that obsession with youth that I really don't like. It's the way it focuses on high school students, and it's like, thanks very much, but you should be on a register somewhere.
Yes, there's a certain type of tree that has your name.
Definitely. No, not a million miles away from the Savile-esque side of things, It's not pleasant.
To close out, I'm going to give you...
Yes, anyway, after that
I'm
tangent...
going to give you just a little... funny, I don't know. Funny might not be the right word, but I was sent a video earlier this week by a friend of mine, and it was a episode of Jim Will Fix It, and it was
oh my god, really?
And it was a young girl who wanted to be a singer but was really shy, and so Sappho says, "Oh, I fixed it for you. Here's someone to help you who also suffers from shyness, Gary Glitter." And I just sat there going, "Holy shit, that's the what?"
The worst of it is, what you think is probably true. It's probably true. Because we know that they were organised, there was a ring of these predators. That's really horrible.
It is. And it took me maybe 3 days to, get my brain to register it in its true form, I don't even want to think about this, and then... To
process, basically, what was happening there on live television.
Absolutely awful. But yes. Anyhow, so now that we're very uncomfortable and feel quite dirty and mucky and grim in ourselves, you can find us on fluffenhammer.com. You can find us on Facebook at the Fluffenhammer, and you can find us on Twitter at the Fluffenhammer. This has been a really low key episode. It's been fun. Very low energy this week, but hopefully we'll be back again in the not too distant future, and we'll be a bit more high energy.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more stuff to talk about.
There's always stuff to talk about. There's stuff that we could have talked about this week and to make it a 5-hour show, but
that's true. That's true.
That's not going to happen.
Not right now. Not right now. Maybe at some point, I would be up for doing a prolonged, like a Twitch stream style show at some point if we could get that working.
One of the things I'd like to try and do at some point is try to do a live show where we can get some audience interaction going.
I'm up for that. I'm well up for that.
Quite a lot of fun. So, with all that being said, we're going to get out of here, and I shall see you next time. Thank you very much, George. And thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much, guys at home.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Prepare now, audition.